All right. We are here, and this is the WMB show. I am your host, Isaiah Israel, and tonight we're going to add a little bit of flavor to what we've been talking about all along. Now, tonight we're going to be focusing in on the Civil Rights Act. Not the one of 1966, but the one that occurred 100 years before, giving us over 150 years of dynamite, of shotgun power in the face of those who think they are benevolent, who think they are doing black people and brown people, even Asian people a favor. Somehow, some way, they got this attitude, this benevolency, to the point where they really believe that they are helping. That some way, somehow, in some form, that it is their right to determine the rights, the natural rights of everyone that is in the United States. But again, like I said, this is the WMB show, and I am here as your host, and this is the be all and end all of this particular segment. Welcome. All right. Well, it's a little bit better. It's not that much buffering going on. But listen, like I was saying, tonight we're going to be focusing in on the civil rights bill and law of 1866 and what it means. And I'm not an attorney. I don't have a PhD in law. I didn't go to Harvard like Obama and got a particular degree in law, whatever the case may be, constitutional law. But what I am finding out, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure it out. We are being bamboozled and tricked into thinking that the 1966 or 64 Civil Rights Act and or law is the one that we should be swinging at the political juggernauts in Washington. That somehow, some way, the FHA Act of 1968 has validity, and that it wasn't until 1966 that black people got some kind of accommodation in terms of law, making sure that our civil rights weren't being violated, and that somehow all of the death and the injuries that took place to get there, and the desegregation of schools for in Brown versus the Board of Education, was a much needed effort on the part of black and brown people, and in particularly black people. But that wasn't the case. It was not necessary for people to die. It was not necessary for people to become seriously injured and to march and to sing "We Shall Overcome." It was already done and said and determined in the 1866 Civil Rights Act that made it pertinent, that made it law, federal law across the nation. State and city government needed to abide by that law. Now, like I said, I'm not an attorney, but what strikes me is that this doesn't take much of a genius to figure it out. Our ancestors worked their asses off during the Reconstruction period, and they made sure that there were laws in place, even though the president at the time vetoed that particular bill. And they got together and they overrode that veto and made the 1866 Civil Rights Act the law of the land of America, making sure that we, the people, hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, not given life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for everyone, not just for black people, but for everyone, despite where they come from, their nationality, or their race, or what have you. So I am finding it very, very hard and a very bitter pill to swallow that after 150 years, something happened after 1866. Something happened within the Supreme Court of 1886 that allowed the Supreme Court to say, excuse me, there's a motorbike going by. We're going to wait for a few seconds, let that go away. That allowed them to say, hey, the 1866 Civil Rights Act has no force and effect. We're going to cancel it. Well, it comes down to I'm white and I say so law. That white people after the Civil War, after the Reconstruction period, after the creation of the Democratic Party and the KKK, there was a huge affirmative action that took place. Not for black people, but for white people, for white men. They got into positions, political, economic positions, and made their voices heard and began to pass laws for their benefit, but not for the benefit of everyone, which is what the 1866 Civil Rights Act was about. They took it upon themselves to reap the benefits, steal land, and made a lot of money, especially, as I have pointed out last night in the video, during the New Deal. They were very, very adamant about and very focused about making sure that the government was there for them, but not for black people. And so a lot of incredible wealth was created through redlining and so forth, as I have pointed out in last night's video. But I am here to tell you that as an American, a Dominican American from the Dominican Republic, and as a citizen of America and the world, that we as a people must stand and fight. We have the most powerful weapon to do it. We need to make sure that these politicians are being held accountable and not trying to and still pulling the wool over our eyes. That's not going to happen. This is a people's revolution, a people's movement, and for those who like to take part in it and to grow this faction of a political action committee to lobby for righteousness, to lobby for justice across the board, then this is it. I am going to explain to you the best way possible because, like I said, I'm not an attorney, but you don't need to be one in order to see what has been going on. Somebody been reaping the benefit over the last 150 years with all of the bullshit laws that's been passed for one people and against another people. And I find it hard, a very bitter pill to swallow, and to see that the black caucus and our political leaders and the black community, they're either playing into the hand of white supremacy and they don't know, or they do know and they getting paid some serious money not to talk about the 1866 Civil Rights Act. They're going by this weak-ass, lame-ass 1966 Civil Rights Act and the FHA Act. It's like, the 66 Act and the FHA Act, it's like trying to fight white supremacy that has a knife in its hand with a toothpick. The 1866 Act is like a shotgun. It cripples and it limits and it handcuffs white supremacy. Now, this is not about putting anybody down, because what has happened through law, through policies, and through regulations after the Reconstruction period, after the formation of the Democratic Party and the KKK, and all of the land that were taken, especially in Black Wall Street, was done under the color of law, which means I'm white, I make the law, and I say so. That's it. It had no reverberating effect across the land. It was done under lies and deceit. It was done to steal out of greed, and white men got into position and did what they did out of hate for whatever reason. And we talked about that in last night's episode or video, and all the other times that we talked about it. White supremacy and white superiority was an liberation ideology under the oppression or from the oppression of black supremacy throughout Europe. Because you have to understand, you have to see, you have to know that the serfs, I don't care if you call a serf a piece of grass, it's still a serf or a slave, that these people were albinoid or Europeans or Europoids or Caucasoid people that we know today as white. And Thomas Jefferson was the first president to put the nail in the coffin of the Moors who were taking Christians, which was another code word for whites, into slavery. We sent millions of white people into slavery, and the word slave comes from the word Slavic, and they have always been the world's slave. Now, that doesn't mean, I condone what happened. There are black devils as well as white devils. And if you put all of this information on the table and take out what doesn't make any sense at all, what is left must be true. Truth is truth, even if nobody believes it, and a lie is a lie, even if everybody believes it. We have to, as a nation and as a world, and for the greater good and for the greater summum bonum of all people, and especially the future generations, face the facts about what happened in America. White people cheated their way to the top, stole their way to the top, killed their way to the top, and with the government behind them, state, local, and federal, how can they lose? So, listen, there are two kinds of laws, de jure and de facto. De facto means that if I don't like, an Asian person living next to me or in my community, I want to say, you got to move. That, that's a personal prejudice thing, but that's not what happened. That's part of it. But the other part is the de jure, where the government comes in and says, yes, this is only for white people. Yes, this benefit is only for white people. And yes, we're going to segregate and make a living hell out of the lives of black people. That's exactly what happened. And when you are in a position of power, as white men had the ability to put themselves in after the Civil War, and we talked about it in great deal in the video before last night and previous videos, that you find there is a benevolent attitude that all of the things that black people have is because white people gave it to them. That's not true. Our ancestors during the Reconstruction period worked not for just our benefit, but for the benefit of America, we the people, the greater good, the summum bonum of all. Because you got to realize, too, that they were white slaves as well. And, again, like I said, black people were prisoners of war. Now, with all of that being said, I really, really, really want you to be able to understand, and we're gonna, go through in detail what I have in my notebook, and really put it to the task, and call the people to justice, to the carpet of justice, and let it do what it do. Because as a people, as an American, as a nation, we owe that to the present generation. We cannot allow them to continue to think that they're white or that they're Caucasian or that they're European. We have to tell the truth. White people just have to accept the fact that they screwed up. White people have to accept the fact that when they got into positions of power, especially the Supreme Court power, which is the law of the land, they were able to twist and turn it inside out, outside in, making truth lies, lies, and truth. Period. And so, as I'm looking through my notebook, I am finding that there's a great deal of information that, in general, the general noosphere of America or the American are not truly understanding what's going on and what happened. This is the travesty. This is a miscarriage of justice. Because I truly believe in the American spirit. I truly believe in the American people. But because of all the smoke that's been blown up our asses by these so-called white supremacists, white nationalists of long ago, because you have to realize that after the formation of the Democratic Party and the formation of the KKK, which is the outgrowth of the Democratic Party, white men who were the biggest recipient of affirmative action began to become greedy. Because that is one of the reasons why there's no accountability. They actually feel and know that they can do what they want to do because I'm white and I say so. That's not true. We need to face that. We need to accept that, and we need to correct it. Justice never sleeps. All closed eyes ain't sleep, and every goodbye ain't gone. All closed eyes ain't sleep, and every goodbye ain't gone. And this is the legacy of the black men and women, probably, who were occupants in the congressional and senatorial branches of our government during the Reconstruction. They made it a point to make sure that justice was heard and had by everyone. So we're going to be covering that in the video that I have to show. It's about, I think 6 minutes, 7 minutes, something around there. So we're at the 20-minute mark right now, but I'm going to continue on here because we got some distance to cover. So with that being said, let me turn the pages here and really get at it. You really have to understand that after the formation of the 13th colony by the Black King, King James, and his son and grandson, King Charles and King George, they told the settlers, do not go beyond the Appalachian Mountains. And we know I covered this in previous videos. But the United States only consists of 13 colonies. That's it. That became the 13 states in D.C. and 1 or 2 or 3 of the territories. Later, after France and Spain were kicked off the back of the colonists, they became greedy. They knew that Britain was 4,000, 5,000 miles away. There was no way for them to come over in one day as we would probably do now because transportation is so quick. And so they became arrogant, they became prideful, they became greedy, and they saw all of that land west of Appalachia, and they began to acquire it. So with this mindset of greed and the beginning of the manifest destiny, which is a ideology of white supremacy and white superiority, they began to to segregate themselves from everyone else, and to begin to form this ideology. Now, like I said, this ideology is like a disease, like a demonic possession. White superiority, white supremacy is nothing but a demonic possession. And excuse the noise, but the old saying goes is you cannot defeat the demons you enjoy playing with. You cannot defeat the demons you enjoy playing with. And white people, they enjoy playing the hell out of white supremacy. And, if I were white, I guess, I could understand it. It's been so long and so deep and so widely accepted within the hearts, souls, and minds of white people that they actually believe it. It is a psychopathic, delusional, crazy mentality that is eating them up from the inside out. And, with all of that hate, with all of that greed, with all of that, and pride in your eyes, you just cannot see your own downfall. The handwriting is on the wall. You just cannot do it. Pride, as the Bible says, comes before the fall. And I just want to make sure that I'm hitting all of these points, man, because white people know. They're just hoping that we don't know. They're just hoping that we don't use this shotgun of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 to really nail them in the coffin, to really put them down, to really do damage to white supremacy. Now, the only way in my book that white supremacy can be taken down is if we become more knowledgeable, wiser, and full of more understanding as to what happened in history. Because when you know the past, you can understand the present and predict the future. When you know the past, you can understand the present and predict the future. And throughout all the after the Reconstruction, black people were locked out via restrictive covenant deeds and codicils. And discrimination, segregation, unemployment, blight, economic and social downfall that led to the blight in black areas, not because they didn't keep it up, but there was no effort on the state, local, and federal level to make sure that black community and brown community were kept up. It was intentionally done to make sure that they were living in filth. This is covered in a lot of books that I mentioned before. One is The Color of Law. And when you look at all of that and how that plays on the mind of people, on their spirits, on their spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical well-being, it is truly devastating. It reeks and reaps with a stench of arrogance that white people have, and this benevolent attitude as if they're doing us a favor by giving us the Civil Rights Act of 1966 and the FHA Act of 1968. Those are bullshit laws. Those are laws that say, I'm white and I say so law, and you just got to wait until I get tired and ready to give you something. That's not true. White folks need to get up out of that mindset, because it's not true. All of what every American deserves comes out of the 1866 Civil Rights Act. Now, one of the things that really nails it is the case of Jones versus Meyer. Jones versus Meyer, Mayer. That was a famous case of racial discrimination where a mixed race couple wanted to move into a all-white neighborhood. And instead of using the 1966 law, they used the 1866 one, not the 1966 one. The 1866 one is like a shotgun pointed in the face of white supremacy, telling white supremacy, sit your ass down, behave, and give us our shit, or I'm going to blow your damn brains out. That's it. That is what the 1866 Civil Rights Act is all about. It gets rid of all forms of slavery and its relics. And in the video that I'm going to be showing you, and you can always check back and look at it later, it tells you in detail what that is and how weak the Civil Rights Act of 1966 or 64 and the FHA Act has no force at all. Not like the one in 1866. And I don't care what the U.S. Supreme Court said, that they watered it down, it didn't mean anything, and they abolished it. They didn't abolish anything. They're lying. White men are lying. They have no accountability. They have no morals. They have no character. They have no integrity. All of these so-called politicians, all of these so-called Supreme Court, state court, and city court judges are bullshit artists. That's it. I'm white and I say so law, and you just gotta wait until I get fit and tired, and I'll give you what you want. No. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are given the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's all of what is required. That's it. That is covered in the 1866 Civil Rights Act, not the 1964 or 66 one, and not the FHA Act. Period. And I find it insulting that after 150 years, the black caucus and the black politicians and black attorneys, if they are aware of the 1866 Civil Rights Act, that they're not using it. And it makes me really feel and believe that they're going along to get along. That if white guys say jump, they jump. If the white guys say slide to the left, they slide to the left. If they say they slide to the right, they slide to the right. All of that wasn't necessary. Just pick up the shotgun of 1866 and point it in their direction, and they'll get the message. Jones did it, and he won. Why? Because it's still the law of the land. I don't care what the U.S. Supreme Court said. The majority of the judges were white, and they were speaking from a position of white supremacy, KKKers. There was nothing saintly about these bastards. They knew the power that was in their hands, and they used it. They knew the power that was in their hands, and they used it for their benefit and for the disadvantaging of black people. So, as we move forward, I really want to make sure that you are really feeling what I'm saying to you. That white men and women that are in positions of power know fully well that law, the 1866 Civil Rights Act, is real. That law has power, punching power like Mike Tyson punch. They know that. And all of these laws that they created after which they got into office, and after the Reconstruction period, and after the decimation of black Wall Street and black people in general, they began to write laws under the color of law, which means it has no force in the fact that you need to obey and follow. You don't. And the Dred Scott case that took place before the 1866 Civil Rights Act was abolished by the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Therefore, moving forward, there was never ever a reason to worry about segregation. There was never ever a reason to worry about racial animus and where you could live and who was doing what. All of that was covered in the 1866 Civil Rights Act for not just for black people, but for everyone. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are given the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But the video that I'm going to play really gets into that as well. But I'm going to continue, and as I'm looking through my notes here, I find it more and more and more insulting that our society has yet, the general noosphere, the general knowledge base in America has yet to recognize this. And as a people, there is a new people's revolution that needs to be started. Don't tread on me and my liberties. And it's been going on far too long. 150 years of cheating, of hiding, of making people think that black people just got their voting rights and living quotas, or however you like to put it, in 1966. That's not true. It was already done 100 years before for the greater good of all, not just for black people. And you got to realize, too, that white people were slaves, too. Now, as we move forward in this discussion, before we get to the videos, which is one is like 17 minutes, the other 2 4 minutes and about 8 minutes. We're going to run up to about an hour to hour and 15 minutes to really cover everything. But I just want you to know that we really, really need to be about justice in America. We need to live up to our Constitution, we the people, and there needs to be a serious look at why and how this Civil Rights Act of 1866 has been willingly turned a blind eye to it. There's no reason for it. And the only reason that I know of that makes sense is out of greed and out of a benevolent attitude of white people. Because, to be honest, all of that wasn't necessary. All of that wasn't necessary. As if, it's kind of natural that black people need to wait on white people until they get tired, and then they give us what, we should have had a long time ago. We got it in 1866. I cannot say that more. I can say it 1,000,000,001 times. All of this arrogant attitude and benevolency that white people have is ridiculous. We brought you into this world. We are your fathers and your mothers. You did not create not one civilization on this planet. You demoralized this planet. You spread death, destruction, disease, and despair throughout every part of this globe wherever you went. There's no more Tasmanian people because you killed them all. And these were black people. The last man that you killed, his scrotum, his testicle sac was cut off and made into a tobacco pouch. Now, as we look through white supremacy, we can see that there's a lot of stress fractures, pain on white supremacy. And white supremacy is shaking in its boots. It'll really shake in its boots when we put the shotgun to its face, the 1866 Civil Rights Act, because everything is covered. There was never a need for anybody to die during the Civil Rights Movement, to get beaten half to death or seriously injured. There was no need for Brown versus education, because it was already illegal. It was already illegal. Segregation was illegal after 1866 Civil Rights Act. Are you following me? But it's not necessary to attack white supremacy. Just strengthening yourself and your understanding of the Civil Rights Act and using it, as Jones and versus Meyer case did. The Jones were a mixed race couple who were looking to live in a all white community, and they won their case. They did not cite the 1966 Civil Rights Act or the FHA Act. They cited, and they knew, because they had knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, to use the 1866 Civil Rights Act. And they won. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no thinking about the U.S. Supreme Court, no thinking about the state court, no thinking about the local courts. They had to go along with it. It's like, well, damn. They're using the one thing we thought that we can get away with, and that they'll never know, and that they'll never find out. White people's hands are tied. They know this. But through lies and deception and delusional minds, they actually feel and know that people are not going to research it because it's a law thing. They're not lawyers, and they need to leave that to lawyers and politicians. No, you don't. I'm going to give you, the basics, and that's all of what you need. The most powerful weapon to do away with all of this hate and with all this bullshit in America is the 1866 Civil Rights Act, Section 1 and 2, 13th and 14th Amendment. And there are plenty of videos on YouTube in order to explain it. A lot of them like cartoons, and if you like cartoons, I guess you will find that to be apropos to your understanding and more readily understandable. But it's not hard at all. It's all about greed and political and economic power to be able to do what you want to do and go where you want to go and say what you want to say without repercussions. And we can see this with Harvey Weinstein and Matt Lauer. These white guys, or so-called white guys, have gotten away with literal, perhaps, murder. And please excuse the motorbike. Sometimes you're going to hear it. We just have to let it go by. But there is no accountability with white people, and white men in particular. They get away with too much shit. They talk shit because they ain't shit. They ain't shit because they talk shit. And they don't think no one will ever call them to the carpet of justice. But like I said, justice doesn't sleep forever. When you participate in evil, it will always, ALWAYS, destroy you. And always, ALLWAYS. It never fails. And this is the reason why white people are not as loved as they think they are worldwide. And that's one of the reasons why they're dying. They have a birth rate of 1.1 to 1.2, and that's lower, 0.9. To maintain your population, you need at least a 2.1. Black people, 8.0. Mexican, 9,000 billion to 1, or something like that. I'm just joking. But be it as it may, this is the situation. Hate destroys your body and your mind, causing your veins, your vessels, and your capillary to shrink. and they become small and constrictive, causing strokes and heart attacks. Not only that, white people are so dumb and so ignorant of their own downfall that they don't see white on white crime. You guys are killing each other more than black people killing each other. And I talked about that last night as well. Before 1965, 90% of the people who were in jail were white people. It didn't turn around until the government under Nixon began to fill black neighborhoods and brown neighborhoods with drugs and guns. And we know how that turned out under Clinton and his 3 strikes, you're out. There was a great uptick of black people in jail. And also, white people are the majority of people who use SNAP, food stamps. But I digress. So, as we move forward, we have to understand that I truly want to see this podcast to be the voice of the people, the voice of the nation, to be an inspiration, and to have impact, political impact, economic, social, and spiritual impact. Because I believe in America. I believe in the greater good. I believe there are people out there who want to make a difference and want to really see America improve. And we have to. We must. We owe that to the future generations. Now, I believe that the WMB show is like the lion den. Be like Daniel or be killed. That don't mean you have to go along to get along. Everybody has their opinion, but facts are facts. You cannot argue facts. The fact that the 1866 Civil Rights Act is real. And any other act thereafter, especially the one in 1966 and the FHA Act, is just bullshit laws. Just to bullshit people and to blow smoke up people's asses. Because like I said, people dying during the civil Martin Luther King didn't have to die. Malcolm X didn't have to die. Medgar Evers didn't have to die. And a whole host of a lot of people who perhaps you would never know their name did not have to die. Did not have to suffer concussions and serious injury, bodily injuries. All of that was unnecessary. Why? Because I'm white and I say so laws were created under the color of law. Because, and that's a great book as well. The color of law is what it is. I'm white and I say so law. That's it. It has no force and effect at all. All of that was within the 1866 Civil Rights Act. Anything else after that, we have a right to sue the shit out of the United States and win. Using not the 1966 one and not the FHA Act, because those are bullshit acts and laws. And I'm talking about the the one in 1866. Now, it is very important for me to reveal the truth versus lies. And like I said, there are two kind of law: the de facto, private, and I prefer. Which means, I prefer to live in an all-black neighborhood, but I don't want to see any white people here. My personal prejudices have nothing to do with who gets to move into my neighborhood. It doesn't. I can be as prejudiced as Bull O'Connor. Segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. But when I asked my government, my state, local, and federal government, hey, keep white people out of here, and they do it, they're culpable. And this is exactly what happened. White people can say, well, I don't want niggas all over here, and blah, 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 blah. But when you are joining that, the de facto preferences with the de jure that include public policy, regulations, and laws by the state, local, and federal government, what happened? You find that white folks done went crazy. They were taking land left and right, and the government said, okay, go ahead and do it, because these are just niggas. Even then, it wasn't legal. And we have every right and every legal recourse under the 1866 Civil Rights Act to sue and to win and to get all of the land back. It just is what it is. And so when you look at the Civil Rights Act of 1866, it reinforced Section 2 and the ruling of 1883 by the U.S. Supreme Court, saying that the Civil Rights Act or protections were ignored for the next 100 years or so, had no merit at all. The ruling of the U.S. Supreme Court in 1883 saying that the 1866 Civil Rights Act is of no importance has no bearing at all, has no weight at all. And the reason being is that these people were KKKers. These people were white guys. These people were in on the fix. They were getting rich, and they wanted other so-called white people to get rich as well. Now, in the 1965 Jones case, was upheld by the 1866 Civil Rights Act, Jones versus Mayer, Mayer. And when you look at the FHA provides for modest enforcement, but not like that of the 1866 Civil Rights Act, which is still good law. We must use this instead of the FHA law, which is bullshit law. 1968 lawsuit reaffirmed that the discrimination in housing is a badge of slavery. Segregation was always illegal, and at what point, and this is what we must do, at what point were we victimized must be answered. And not to lose anything in the fogginess of forgetfulness. The Fifth Amendment keeps federal government from treating citizens unfairly. The 13th prohibits slavery and second-class citizens. The 14th keeps states and local governments from treating citizens unfairly and unequally. Residential segregation violates the 13th Amendment as well. Section 1 and Section 2 empower Congress to enforce Section 1, which is what they are not doing. Section 2 empowers Congress to enforce Section 1. There's no ifs, there's no ands, and there's no buts about that. In 1866, Congress enacted the Civil Rights Bill that stopped slavery and acts that supported second-class status. In 1883, the Supreme Court rejected the congressional interpretation of its power to enforce the 13th Amendment, per Section 2, to abolish all badges and incidents of slavery in the United States of America, but didn't agree that exclusion from housing could be a badge or incident or example of slavery, and it is, and it was, and still is. Therefore, these Civil Rights Act protections were ignored up until today, the 17th of May, 2019. Now, there are two things. Congress was correct in deciding that the segregation in housing was an example of second-class treatment and a relic of slavery. If the U.S. federal government actively promoted housing segregation, it failed to abide by the 13th Amendment prohibition of slavery and its relics. The 1883 Reject Civil Rights Act of 1866. Now, when we look at the Jones and Meyer lawsuit, 1965, it recognized the validity of the 1866 ruling. It was still good law. They pointed that shotgun to the faces of the U.S. Supreme Court, and they had to relinquish. They pointed that shotgun of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, and the U.S. Supreme Court judges had to relinquish. They had to give it up. They had to accept it. That's because white folks' hands became tied. White folks' hands became tied because of an historical case, as Jones case, had serious implications. According to the 1866 law, gave no powers of enforcement. You're right. Of course it did. But they want you to think that you have none, that you have no power, that this law has no power, and that the one in 1966 we need to be grateful about, because all the poor black people need help. We, the white people, white men in particular, we're going to help you because we feel benevolent. You guys been down for so long. Blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. Just fronting is all they doing. Just lying is all they doing. Just being deceitful as per their nature is what they are doing. The civil rights group used the FHA Act rather than the Jones ruling. Therefore, housing discrimination was unlawful since 1866, not 1968, and the Constitution mandates by federal law to remove all badges of slavery. And this is what the Jones case established, that the housing discrimination is or was a, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of housing discrimination still going on, is a badge of slavery. Racial segregation in schools was illegal before 1954. Segregation was always unconstitutional, and the misguided Supreme Court failed to see this, recognize it, and stop it by way of the 1866 ruling. They knew what the hell they were doing. They knew that they were KKK members. They knew of the greed that was being taken and advantage of, and taking people's property, with the National Guard standing by and not doing anything, i.e. Black Wall Street. You know what I'm talking about. The Reconstruction era took place between 1866 and 1877. The Dred Scott, 1857, was decided. That was thrown into the garbage can after the 1866 Civil Rights Act. It had no force in effect, and it still don't. I hear black people talking about the Dred Scott, and we're not American. Of course we are. Forget that. We are American citizens per the Civil Rights Act of 1866 with all full rights and privileges. We hold these true to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are given the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And you have to realize that the 1866 Civil Rights Act was done by black people for the greater good of black people and white people who were also slaves, and people in general. And you're going to be able to see that in the video as well. The challenge for us is to identify at what point at which they were victimized, the VA loans and so on and so forth. And we're talking about black people in order to get justice still. Generally, there is no judicial remedy for a policy wrongly approved by the U.S. Supreme Court or law, but doesn't eliminate the constitutionally required remedy for such a violation. And, you know, a lot of people would say, let bygone be bygone. That's the past. Well, let bygone be bygones is not a constitutional principle. Letting bygones be bygones is not a constitutional principle. Justice must be had. Justice doesn't sleep. All closed eyes ain't sleep, and every goodbye ain't gone. And segregation was a nationwide policy of the United States government under, after, or during the FDR period. White people were getting rich due to redlining and having those wealth accumulate and to build bigger homes for themselves at the expense of black people, and passing that wealth down and to their kids so they can start a business, whatever money that they got. Real talk. And the business, the video talks about that as well. Now, private discrimination would have been less effective had it not been embraced and reinforced by the federal government. This is what I'm talking about. Personal prejudices is one thing, but when it's combined with the power and effect of the federal government, the state and local government, it makes it dangerous because the people who are affected can't get justice. And it lends itself to a willful blindness to justice. Now, there are a lot of books that I want you guys to check out too. One is called The Negro Ghetto in 1948, The Dark Ghetto 1965, The Kerner Report 1968, Making the Second Ghetto 1983, and The Ghetto Takes Shape, Black Cleveland. Um, so when we look, and I just mentioned that when we look at the FDR New Deal, was supported by whites in the South only if it excluded black people. Do I really need to get into that and what that is? And because of that, homes for black people were poorly made in areas that were less desirable, and homes were made very well for white people in areas that were uh, great for home building. So all of this, plays a part. Um, it's just time to really, really deal with the issues at hand and to stop playing and stop this benevolent attitude that white people have toward black people. It's one thing to lift every voice and sing, but also, if necessary, to lift every fist and swing. Swing that 1866 Civil Rights Act and put it into the face of white people. Hit them in the face with your fist and then shoot them in the face with that shotgun of justice. Real simple. Justice never sleeps, and neither do we as a people in America. I believe in America. I know that we can turn it around and make it just for everyone. And with that being said, we're going to take a look at some of the videos, and I'm going to cut out. And you just really, really, really pay attention and look for other videos that are of like mind like that. So with that being said, I just want you guys to know that we must, as a people, fight. We must, as a people, fight for justice for everyone. And the more I think of it, the more I know we can do it. But will we do it? And I'm one to believe that it's possible, that we cannot lose hope. We must keep the faith. And, faith doesn't make it easy. It just makes it possible. And the more I think about it, the more possible it becomes. Because in the end, people got to wake up to the truth. You got to. And so with that being said, we're going to go on to the video. And the first one deals with Malance Bart Williams, a beautiful sister from Sierra Leone, and she just really puts it down as a matter of fact. And so I'm going to cut out here and take a little break, get me a little coffee or whatever, and you guys can enjoy this particular video. I will see you soon.
Good afternoon. I am Malance, and I come from the richest country in the world. It is located in the richest continent in the world, in the west of the richest continent. My country is called Sierra Leone. On the surface, we are blessed with infinite beauty, and abundance of flora and fauna, producing the most exquisite harvest of coffee, cocoa, fruits, vegetables, and culture. You name it, we've got it. We all
I think there was a buffering problem, so we're gonna fix that right quick. Um, okay. So please hold on for a second.
So the job of the writer is not to supply the ideas. It is to be patient enough to find the ideas. David and Goliath is a concept we all know. An arrogant big dude who thinks he's fighting a sword fight, and David changed the rules. But then I stumbled across this paper that had been written by Israel.
Okay. So we're back. Sorry about that.
also have diverse wildlife and vast marine resources, and waterfalls and rivers that run into the most beautiful beaches. The land is golden, literally, a true paradise. Which, of course, is inhabited by the most beautiful souls. We have a very strong cultural heritage. In fact, Sierra Leone had the first sub-Saharan university. Prior to that, there was one in the kingdom of Timbuktu, which was the first university in the world, succeeding the great monastic schools of Egypt and Osiris. On a deeper level, we are blessed with the real treasures, the kings and queens of this world desire. This was the largest alluvial diamond ever found. It weighs almost 1,000 carats, 969 to be precise. This beauty was found by an old lady in her backyard about 2 years ago, 125 carats. Some people mine gold in their backyards. It's quite common. Besides gold and diamonds, we have about 20 precious minerals that have been discovered as of today. We recently started extracting huge petroleum reserves that have been discovered. We have platinum, ilmenite to make titanium, rutile to coat jets, iron ore, the largest iron ore deposits in Africa, the third largest in the world. Tantalite, also known as coltan, used in your mobile phones and computers. Bauxite for aluminium production. Zinc, chrome ore, copper, coal, phosphates, potassium, salt, lead, granite, asbestos, nickel, zircon. Furthermore, we have exquisite timber like mahogany and teak. And we have the most beautiful stamps in the world. Of course, the West needs Africa's resources most desperately to power airplanes, cell phones, computers, and engines. And the gold and diamonds, of course, a status symbol to determine their powers by their core and to give value to their currencies. One thing that keeps me puzzled, despite having studied finance and economics at the world's best universities, the following question remains unanswered. Why is it that 5,000 units of our currency is worth 1 unit of your currency, where we are the ones with the actual gold reserves? It's quite evident that the aid is in fact not coming from the West to Africa, but from Africa to the Western world. The Western world depends on Africa in every possible way, since alternative resources are scarce out here. So how does the West ensure that the free aid keeps coming? By systematically destabilizing the wealthiest African nations and their systems, and all that backed by huge PR campaigns, leaving the entire world under the impression that Africa is poor and dying and merely surviving on the mercy of the West. Well done, Oxfam, UNICEF, Red Cross, Life Aid, and all the other organizations that continuously run multi-million-dollar advertisement campaigns depicting charity porn to sustain that image of Africa globally. Ad campaigns paid for by innocent people under the impression to help with their donations. While one hand gives under the flashing lights of cameras, the other takes in the shadows. We all know the dollar is worthless, while the euro is merely charged with German intellect and technology, and maybe some Italian pasta. How can one expect donations from nations that have so little? It's super sweet of you to come with your colored paper in exchange for our gold and diamonds. But instead, you should come empty-handed, filled with integrity and honor. We want to share with you our wealth and invite you to share with us. The perception is that a healthy and striving Africa would not disperse its resources as freely and cheaply, which is logical. Of course, it would instead sell its resources at world market prices, which in turn would destabilize and weaken Western economies, established on the post-colonial free meal system. Last year, the IMF reports that 6 out of 10 of the world's fastest growing economies are in Africa, measured by their GDP growth. The French Treasury, for example, is receiving about $500 billion year in, year out. Foreign exchange reserves from African countries based on colonial debt they forced them to pay. Former French President Jacques Chirac stated in an interview recently that we have to be honest and acknowledge that a big part of the money in our banks comes precisely from the exploitation of the African continent. In 2008, he stated that without Africa, France will slide down in the rank of a third world power. This is what happens in the human world, the world we have created. Have you ever wondered how things work in nature? One would assume that in evolution the fittest survives. However, in nature, any species that is overhunting, overexploiting the resources they depend on as nourishment, natural selection would sooner or later take the predator out, because it offsets the balance. Now that I shared my perspective with you, I would like to share my initiatives with you. As a Sierra Leonean, I'm a diamond expert. I find them in the rough. What nature created from the darkest substance, under the influence of heat and pressure, transforms into the strongest, most brilliant rocks. These rocks have the consistency to stem an entire nation. These will be our future leaders. Please meet the Florential Creative Collective I formed with 21 street kids that were often displaced as a result of the Sierra Leonean Civil War and ended up living in the street as early as age 3, growing up as outlaws of society.
I name Timothy, but the gangster name na Ephraim.
My name is Fatih Christian Kago. My name is Sanjano. My name is Samosi.
None shall escape the visions that I see. No soul saved, best believe.
I lost my mother and father during the Civil War in Sierra Leone. I was brought up by my grandmother in the village.
At the age of 5 years of age. Yeah. So this time Mama had to treat me. Even put poison for me. And I chop for it.
The visions that I
In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Islam is still in my life.
I'm not the man who formed down base. Yes, I'm not the first man who begin lock down base. Three other guys started the inside down base. And down base is it now. The team, all man, fearful of the team.
the visions that I see.
You get the hard way, you get the soft way. The soft way na for good thief. The hard way na for good tooth, not of God. Tooth for people or it will go thief for people.
If you not strong at the streets, you go die before time. Or either you come on bad before time.
2001 when I come on the streets, I did do them bad, they thief, they job phone, or they do them bad life. Till 2010, you can shoot malice.
From the street, he take me to school, he go put me in school. I dey live fine now. Then me own thing what I want to do in the future, I want to study law. I get that determination always. So I want to become a lawyer, be featured and the.
Best believe. My breath must
The
break.
future plan, see what they go do for help me own family. Because I don't decide say I want to go to school, I will be international businessman.
So me, some of me company the way they live their wayward life there. I wish them back would change like me. For let them go they left their style here. Then they imagine say all the wolf style here not fine for mortal man. Mortal man are more possible for the reason and wish for better future in this world.
These guys are my biggest inspiration. Destiny brought us together. I met them by a chance encounter in 2010. 2011, they all started living with me, 21 in number. Wonderful things happen when creatives meet with mutual respect. How did we go about it? Creativity. That same creativity that ensured their survival under the most adverse circumstances in the streets is channeled into outlets such as art, music, film, and fashion. They made the impossible possible. From lion baits in Sierra Leone to luxury fashion stores in Paris, New York, and Berlin. This is what we created single-handedly, without a single cent in donations, without running water, without electricity. Most of them not being able to read and write at the time we met them. And now, some of them studying law, engineering, being filmmakers, and so on. This is made with pure energy, inspiration, and love in Freetown. With creativity and passion as the sole ingredient, we participate in a global market of international competition and find our way into the world's most exclusive department stores, onto the bodies of the world's fashion icons, and into the most distinguished art collections and exhibitions in Berlin, Paris, New York, Miami. A proven concept that produced self-sufficient individuals financing their own education into lawyers, engineers, filmmakers, and artists within only 3 years. Concept based on mutual respect and sharing, a blueprint that can be replicated anywhere, under any circumstances. I only had the vision and the insight to recognize diamonds in the rough, and was determined to prove to the world that the absence of donation produces quality in a self-sufficient manner. I believe charity merely creates inferiority and dependency. I want to serve as a bridge between two worlds I call home, to facilitate a fair exchange between two contrasting worlds that become powerful once balance is reinstalled. It's not about charity, it's about charity. Today I invite you to change your perspective. Own your visions of a brighter world. Never see lack. See abundance, always, everywhere. And watch the universe conspire. Don't focus on problems but on the solution. Remember, our perception of any given situation is the only thing that determines the outcome. I am Malens. I am German too. Change your channel. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Thank you for listening.
All right, well, you heard it. Malance Bart Williams at the TEDx. And this is significant because it shows that from nothing, seemingly nothing, you can rise to the top. With a positive attitude of knowing and believing and knowing and having faith that you can make it, that you know how to ride a bike, you know how to tie your shoes, that you stay focused. You can manifest what you have in your mind by speaking and taking the action to make it happen. Period. Africa does not need Europe. Europe needs Africa. And I want that to make sure that that is felt wholeheartedly. Africa does not need Europe. Europe needs Africa. We have all of the resources. We have all of the gold. We have all of the diamond. We have all of the cobalt. Everything that the world needs they need to come to their father and mother to get it. Period. Now we're going to go on and we're going to look at the Civil Rights Act. And this is pertinent to what we were just talking about for about 50 minutes or so. And we're coming up on an hour and 20 minutes. We don't have too much further to go. I think we're going to extend it to about an hour and a half. But again, it really speaks to the incredible power that this Civil Rights Act 1866 has, that nobody isn't talking nobody isn't using it, that no one isn't taking that bat and bashing the politicians in their head with it, the Supreme Court judges with it, pointing the gun of justice, the shotgun of justice of 1866 Civil Rights Act into their faces. Because once they see it, they'll be like, oh, okay, you got it, you win. But I digress, so let's get it started.
The Civil Rights Act of 1866, 14 Stat. 27-30, enacted April 9, 1866, was the first United States federal law to define citizenship and affirm that all citizens are equally protected by the law. It was mainly intended to protect the civil rights of persons of African descent born in or brought to America in the wake of the American Civil War. This legislation was enacted by Congress in 1865, but vetoed by President Andrew Johnson. In April 1866, Congress again passed the bill. Although Johnson again vetoed it, a two-thirds majority in each chamber overcame the veto and the bill therefore became law. John Bingham and some other congressmen argued that Congress did not yet have sufficient constitutional power to enact this law. Following passage of the 14th Amendment in 1868, Congress reenacted the 1866 Act in 1870. The author of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 was Senator Lyman Trumbull, who introduced the bill in the Senate. Congressman James F. Wilson summarized what he considered to be the purpose of the act as follows, when he introduced the bill in the House of Representatives. It provides for the equality of citizens of the United States and the enjoyment of civil rights and immunities. What do these terms mean? Do they mean that in all things civil, social, political, all citizens, without distinction of race or color, shall be equal? By no means can they be so construed. Do they mean that all citizens shall vote in the
Okay, there's a little bit of a buffer in here, so I'm going to see that we can begin this again, or at least from the point of where it left off. But be it as it is, you can see that what I was trying to explain about the Civil Rights Act of 1866 has all of the meat and bones that we need to make it happen. And I don't know what's going on with the video, but as you can see, if it doesn't really run that well, then you can see which one it is, and then you can point it out. But I'm going to try to make it work again and see where we can pick up at if we don't start at the end. I mean at the beginning. So hopefully we can get this going and we can keep it moving. But if not, you see which one it is. And the Civil Rights Act of 1866 with a little cartoon of a lady with blonde hair. So once again, Murphy's Law is at hand here. We're kind of hoping that, things will just run smoothly, but sometimes it don't. What we're going to do, we're going to come back to this, and then we're going to get into the main crux of what my book was about. The white man's burden of lies and deceit, and that the United States did not win the 1776 war. It's still a colony of Britain. So, with that being said, let's jump over to that particular video and try to come back to the other one and see where we will be at. All right. So we are here, and just take a look at this video of USA, a British colony, British Crown colony. So I'm going to let that play, and I will see you. And I think it lasts about 4 minutes or so. If I can get right back to 4 minutes, about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Buffering, hopefully. Excuse that. It's this under. Let's hope that it plays. Let's see what happens. Well, Murphy's Law is at hand here. But we're going to work it out and see what happens here. I hope it plays. So, come on and play, please. I would appreciate it. People are waiting. Wow. Well, Murphy's Law is at hand here. You would think that you got everything planned, everything working out right. It just doesn't. So, things happen. So, we're going to see what happens here. We're just going to work it out. And hopefully it'll start to play. Please start to play. Hello. Well, it looks like it is freezing. I don't know exactly what is going on. But where are we at here? And the recording counter has stopped as well. So we're just going to work it out and see what happens. Okay, we're having a problem with this video. I'm going to give it a few more minutes, but please excuse this. But as you can see, you can look at the video and tell which one it is, and you can look for it on YouTube. Hopefully it will play, and let's see what happens. All right. But anyways, as it can happen, things happen. So we just have to kind of make do with what happened. But as you can see from the Civil Rights 1866 video. You can take a look at that and YouTube that particular video on YouTube, and you can watch it separate from this particular video. So we're gonna wrap it up. I don't know exactly what happened, but at least we got the first one done. So we'll see how that works out. But like I said, you can take a look at the videos and be able to see them separate from this particular video. And again, I would like to apologize as to what happened, because these two videos are pretty short. But it really speaks to what I've been saying all along, that America did not win its independence in 1776, and that it's still a British colony, a British crown colony. So with that being said, we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to close out the window capture. I don't know what this. Let's see what happens with this one. Let's see. Let's go back to the British Crown Colony and see what happens. 'Cause I really want to try to get this on here. I know it looks ridiculous and all of that, but things happen. So that's kind of like a wrap. But hey, it's not working. I don't know what happened. So we're gonna close out that window capture and go on and finish this up. So with that being said, you really got to understand, and I gave it my best shot at explaining what happened during that long discourse of about 45 minutes, the importance and the power of the Civil Rights Bill Act of 1866. But right now we're going to move forward and really take a good look at Mitchell. Now these are the kind of clowns that are existing in our government. They know about the power of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. They know. But they too busy blowing smoke up our asses. And we just need to take the time to take the rock of justice and the rock of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and just bust the shit out of all the people who are running game on the American people. And just black up or shut up. Be serious about what you're doing. Be serious about what you want, and it will happen. Have faith. Keep the faith. Faith doesn't make things easy. It just, make things possible. And these people in Washington, at the state, local, and federal level, is like this guy. Stupid, lame, lazy. They think we're dumb. But we're not dumb. And this is where white people fall in line at. They believe and want to believe in a reassuring lie. That's it. They will stand in a line rather than going to the movie theater of an inconvenient truth. Because like I said, truth is truth, but a lie is a lie. I don't care if nobody believes that the truth is the truth. And I don't care if everybody believes that a lie is a lie. It is what it is. And here we go. This is the last part of it. This is what I'm talking about. White lies matter. But more importantly, real eyes realize real lies. And as a nation, we got to really sit back and look at the given situation and realize that we can make a difference, that there need to be a people's revolution, and that if we don't, then we'll be forfeiting our responsibility to the current generation and to the generations to come. We must fight. We must stand up for what is right, just, and true all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Because leaving behind a legacy of hate, it's not it. It kills more so than it heals. And we owe that to the current generation to tell them the truth, to tell them the error of our ways, and to relate to them that it's not worth lying, because lying can only hurt those who are lying. So, with all of that being said, we will be on tomorrow night, or tonight, because it's 1 o'clock here in the Dominican Republic AM. And it's Freak Out Friday, and we're going to have some laughable moments, some laughable people. It's just going to have fun. It's just a way in which we can really just let it go. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm always looking forward to Friday, Freak Out Fridays, because it just allows me to really, let whatever little bit of hair I got down. So, with all that being said, peace and good things, and stay black. Here is the outro, and always remember, stay black. All right, speak truth to power, political power, economic power, social, and spiritual. We'll see you tomorrow night, and this is a wrap on the WMB show. I am your